The Parah Adumah, the red cow, not the mad cow, but the red cow, the paradox of the Parah Adumah. Zois chukas haTorah. The Torah starts off yesterday's reading, Zois chukas haTorah. This is the law of the entire Torah. But that's strange because it's not the entire Torah, it's only one mitzvah. There's 612 other mitzvahs. Why does the Torah call the red cow the entire Torah? It's only one mitzvah. So the answer is an amazing answer. The red cow is the ultimate paradox. The very ashes that are purifying one are contaminating the other simultaneously. The ultimate mystery. The ashes purify one, defile the other at the same time. Where do you have that phenomenon, Ephraim? By the Torah. The Torah also has these paradoxical qualities. The Gemara in Yuma, page 72, says, a person can be a great Torah scholar, and he's a mensch, he has good midot, zocha, naselo samachayim. Then the Torah scholarship for him becomes a potion of life. It purifies him. But the very same Torah, loy zocha, person can be a Torah scholar, but he has no good midot tovot. He's corrupt. He's immoral. Even though he's a Torah scholar, Michael, that same Torah for him becomes samamovet. Isn't that incredible? Zois chukas haTorah. The Parah Adumah is a symbol for the Torah because the Torah, like the Parah Adumah, beware, handle with care. It can purify, but it, God forbid, can defile you. Now, how can the Torah defile a person? Well, I'll show you. I read in the Jerusalem Post last week, there was a Reform rabbi, homo rabbi, who made a gay marriage service. And under the chuppah, one of the brachas of the Sheva brachas, Baruch Ato Hashem, Mesameach Chatan Imakala. That's the bracha. So what did this gay rabbi do to the gay couple? He took God's name in vain, and he said, Baruch Ato Hashem, Mesameach Chatan V'Hachatan. Can you imagine that blasphemy? Taking God's name in vain. Instead of God rejoicing the chasam with the kala, so this gay rabbi under the chuppah married these two homos, and he blasphemed God's name by saying Baruch Ato Hashem, V'Sameach Chatan Ima Chatan. It wouldn't be so tragic, it would be funny. So the Torah, this was a great rabbi, he knows Torah, he studied. For him, the Torah is a sam hamovet. It's a potion of death and tumah. He uses the Torah to perform gay marriage, to be a gay. He knows, they know. They study, I'm telling you, they know. I've had talks with them, they know their stuff. But they are corrupt, immoral. So the Torah for them is a potion of life, zois chukas haTorah. So the Parah Adumah also has these paradoxical qualities where it can purify and defile at the same time. Speaking about a Reform rabbi, you know the difference between an Orthodox wedding, a conservative wedding, and a Reform wedding. Okay. It's my joke. At an Orthodox wedding, the mother of the bride is pregnant. Because the Orthodox wedding, the girls get married very young, and it happens that the mother of the bride is pregnant. Yeah. At a conservative wedding, the bride is pregnant. At a Reform service wedding, the rabbi is pregnant. Right? At least somebody's pregnant anyway. Right. So anyway, somehow the Parah Adumah is therapy for the depressing effects of contact with the dead. This afternoon we'll see how tumas meis, when a person comes in contact with a dead body, he becomes tamei. Why does he become tamei? He becomes depressed. contact with death, it's very depressing. Somehow the paraduma helps us to deal with the side effects of death, which is tameh, and it's therapy for tumas meis. Somehow the paraduma is therapeutic. How? How is the paraduma therapeutic for tumas meis? But before we get to that, yesterday's reading, God told Moshe to hit the rock. No, testing you. To speak to the rock. Instead of speaking to the rock, he hit the rock, and God accuses Moses of Yan lo yamantem bi. You did not believe in me, therefore you're not coming to Israel. So the question is, what difference does it make whether speaking to the rock or hitting the rock? How is one less emunah than the other? Why does God accuse Moshe and Aaron of not believing in me? Just because they hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock? How is that a lack of emunah? So the answer is, Moshe and Aaron lost their temper, Rabbi Yaakov. They became angry and upset with the Jews. They called them rebels. When a person becomes angry and upset and he loses his temper, Reb Zalman, for that moment, he betrays a lack of emunah. Because if a person really believes that God runs the world, Hakol b'dei shemayim chutz miyirat shemayim. And the Gemara in Chulin, page 7, says a person doesn't even stub his toe. You don't have a bad hair day, or you don't stub your toe unless God ordained it. So how could you be angry? Person gets angry, he means he feels that he doesn't deserve what he got. Thanks, I needed that. Right? You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. If you really believe that God's in charge and nothing can happen without him, that's a basic belief in Judaism. Hakol b'dei shemayim chutz miyirat shemayim. Then how could a person become angry? For that moment, Ephraim, anger betrays a lack of emunah. For that moment. You don't deserve this tsar. Right? It's mikra. No, it's not mikra. It's rak me Hashem. So therefore, God accuses Moshe and Aaron of not believing. You lost your temper. You betrayed a lack of emunah. Powerful message of why a person should not become angry. Sometimes you have to make believe that you're angry to discipline, to educate, to teach. But the Rambam says it has to be make believe. We know that whatever happens, happens only because he ordained it. So how could you become angry? Whatever the sin was. The Ramban says that the sin was that he said, we will give you water. The Ramban argues with Rashi, what do you mean just speak to the rock and not hit it? Why did God say, Kacha Samata? I don't want to get into that. Whatever the sin was, the Rambam says the sin was that he called the Jews rebels. Whatever the sin was, they all agree it was what? He lost his temper. He became angry. That betrays a lack of emunah. Incredible. So the next time someone, what, upsets you, what are you supposed to say? Thanks, I needed that. Right? It's unrealistic, but that's what Judaism demands, right?
Didn't Moshe and Aaron commit the same sin that they were accusing the Bnei Israel
What?
through the desert with the Meraglim?
They became angry and upset, but I don't want to. I want to talk about the red cow now, but I just want to touch why that's called a lack of emunah. But anyway, getting back to the red cow, not the mad cow. How is the red cow ashes and the ceremony therapeutic for the depressing effects of contact with the dead that we call, that depression we call what? Tumas meis. How? Now the Mishnah Masechta Porah tells us, chapter 3, Teisha porot nasat shechora ba'yisheni. There were 9 red cows until the destruction of the second temple. The first one was prepared by Moses in yesterday's reading. Ezra HaSofer made the second one. And from Ezra until Chorban Ba'yisheni, there were what? 7. So a total of 9. Va'asirit, says the Mishnah in Parah, chapter 3, Va'asirit yaseh melech HaMashiach. Who will prepare the 10th red cow? The Melech HaMashiach. The Melech HaMashiach will prepare the 10th red cow. Hang in there. Now, Rashi claims, and others say that the red cow, no one knows the explanation. It's the ultimate mystery. The ultimate mystery. Rashi said it's a mystery. And then Rashi gives a blow-by-blow description that the red cow, it's no mystery at all. It's a tikkun and a kapara for what? For the Chet Egel. Rashi seems to contradict himself. First he says, the ma mitzvah zot ma tam yeshba. It's impossible to understand. Then Rashi makes a 180-degree turn and he gives a blow-by-blow description that the Parah Aduma is what? A tikkun for the Chet Egel. Rashi gives the Moshel ben Shivcha. A maidservant in the king's palace couldn't find a babysitter one day. She takes her child with her, and she forgets to bring pampers, right? And the child makes doo-doo all over the king's palace. So the king says, let the mother come and what? Clean up the mess. Kach tovai para t'chapar al egel. So we made a mess. We made doo-doo with a golden calf. What's the mother of a calf? A cow. Let the mother cow come and be a kapara for what? For the egel. Why red? Nechama asked me why it's red. Rashi quotes a pasuk in Isaiah that sin is called red. Because when a person does an Aveirah, he forfeits his life. What's the symbol of life? Blood. So therefore it's red. Therefore it's red. The symbol of what? Of sin, of forfeiting your life. And then the Parah Aduma contaminates. Says the Egel contaminates. The Egel was avodah zarah. Anyone who comes in contact with the Egel becomes tamei. So therefore, the Parah Aduma, anyone that comes in contact with the Parah Aduma, also becomes what? Tamei. And just like when Moshe burned the Egel and he ground it up and he gave the Jews to drink, they became what? Tahor. So here, instead of drinking the ashes, you get spritzed. You become tahor. So what's the great mystery that even Shlomo HaMelech couldn't figure out? Let him learn Rashi, right? It's tovai parat chapal ala egel, right? The egel hazov brought death into the world because when the Jews said Nasa v'nishma, we went back to Adam Koydem Achet, just like Adam Koydem Achet was not supposed to die. So we said Nasa v'nishma, we went back to Adam Koydem Achet, but then when we sinned with the egel, death was again decreed. So what's the tikkun for the egel? What's the tikkun for death? The mother, the Parah Aduma. So what's the great mystery? Whatever happened with the egel happened with what? With the Parah Aduma. The egel was metame everyone because you come in contact with avodah zarah, you become tamei. So therefore the red cow ashes makes you tamei, but after it's burned, Moshe burned the egel and he mixed the gold dust with water. He gave the Jews to drink and purified them. So here, instead of mixing the gold dust, what do you mix, Reb Zalman? You mix the ashes and you get pure. So it's a tikkun and a kapara for what? For the Chet Egel. So what's the great mystery? Tovai parot chapral b'na. What's the great mystery? What? What? The same thing with the Egel, Rivka. The Egel, anyone that came in contact with the Egel become tamei because avodah zarah contaminates. But after the Egel was burned and Moses mixed the gold dust with the water, he gave them to drink and purified them, the Torah says. So the same thing here. You have the paradox of the Parah Aduma. It's a tikkun for the paradox of avodah zarah. Right? Egel brought death to the world, so the Parah Aduma is the antidote. Somehow it's the antidote for death. It removes the stigma of death. So what's the great mystery? The great mystery is, Ephraim, we know the procedure. We know. Shlomo Melech knows. He can learn Rashi like I do. But why does it work? Why does God accept tshuva? Tovai parat chapral b'no. The Parah Aduma is a kapara for the egel, to tikkun. Why should it be a tikkun? Why does tshuva work? That's the ultimate mystery. How can tshuva change the past? The past is dead and buried. And yet, the Gemara in Yuma 86 says that tshuva is so great, it can turn a past Aveirah into a present-day mitzvah. That's the paradox. Does it make sense? We say the past is dead, over. But a person does tshuva me'ahava, zedonot nasa lo k'zchuyot. His past Aveirah becomes a mitzvah. Does that make sense? Yes. Makes no sense. It doesn't make it. And that's the ultimate paradox. How can Aveirah become a mitzvah? That's the mystery. Of course we know the procedure and the mechanics. But why does kapara work? That's the ultimate godly secret that no human being can what? Fathom. The chesed haboreh. That makes no sense to us on a human level. That a person can reinvent himself, he can rejuvenate himself, and recreate the past. That's utterly, human logic cannot accept that. That's the great mystery of what? Of the Paraduma. Of the Paraduma. That's the paradox. Right? That our intelligence cannot understand the chesed haboreh that is what contained in tshuva. That's the mystery, not the procedure. We know the mechanics. Yes. Yes, Rivka? Yes?
I saw on the internet, because somebody mentioned, there is in Texas.
Right, Aaron mentioned, a red cow. Okay, so hang in there, okay.
That is
being prepared, being groomed. Right. That's right. By Noachites. Okay, great. Michael, you had a question?
Yes.
Fire away. I'm all ears. What?
In the Koreans, the color red stands for death.
Death. Well, according to Isaiah chapter 1, the color red represents sin and death, because when you do an Aveirah, you forfeit your blood.
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, the Paraduma, we forfeited our life. We sinned with the Egel. So we deserve death. So we did kapara, the paraduma is red, okay? So we know the procedure, but why does tshuva work? That's the ultimate mystery, how a person can reinvent himself and change the past. The past is not dead and buried. Now, so the Mishnah in Masechta Parah says that the 10th Parah Abduma will be what? Be prepared by the Melech HaMashiach, and who will sprinkle the ash of the 10th one? Who? Go to your videotape. Go to the tape, please. To the text. Who is going to sprinkle? No. Side number 4. It's one paper with 2 sides. Please go to side number 4. And we'll see who will sprinkle the ashes of the last paraduma. Hang in there. Pasuk Chaf Hei. V'zarakti aleichem mayim tahorim. God said, I will sprinkle on you waters of purification. Utahartem ikoltum aseichem. You have it, side 4. Pasuk Chaf Hei. I will cleanse you from all of your filth and tameh. So God, Rashi says, God himself, Kavayachol, will spritz us with the mei chatas to remove the stigma of death. Isn't that incredible? Wow. Now, ma nishtana tumas meis from all other tumah. All other tumah, Rabbi Yaakov, was removed by what? Mikvah. Ma nishtana tumas meis, where mikvah is not enough, where you need what? The Kohen, symbolizing God. You need outside help from the one above, unlike all other tumah, which you can help yourself by what? No, going into a mikvah. The answer is because we cannot help ourselves to escape death. We cannot redeem ourselves from death. Only God can. The sprinkling of the paraduma ashes by the Kohen symbolizes our emunah, Ephraim, that in the Messianic era, when it says God will sprinkle on us mayim tahorim in Pasuk Chaf Hei, it means God will free us from the curse of death. That's the deeper meaning of Zarakti Aleichem Mayim Tahirim. Death is the great mystery. That's the great paradox, the great mystery, why we have to die. But we have a promise from Isaiah. God tells Isaiah chapter 25, Pasuk 8, Ubila hamoves lo netzach. When Mashiach comes, God will swallow up death forever. That's what you say in a Shiva house. Lo yaleinu. So the Parah Aduma, ashes, the Kohen represents God. We cannot free ourselves of the curse of death. We need outside Hashem's help. Who's God's shliach? The Kohen. But when Mashiach comes, God says He Himself will free us from the stigma of death. Pasuk Chafei was Arakti Aleichem Mayim Tahorim. That symbolizes that God will release us and redeem us from death.
So, well, that solves the paradox, because in order for the person to a person has to be pure in order to throw to sprinkle.
That's right.
So none of us are pure.
Well,
None of us are pure.
Tuma hutra betzibur, right? If everybody's tummy, it's not a problem,
No, but what happens?
right?
But this solves the problem. God Himself does.
God Himself will do it. Now, it's amazing that by some Chevre Kedisha, when they do Tahara, what a Chesed Shalemet, they do Tahara, and when they wash the dead body, what pasuk do they say to him? V'zorakti aleichem mayim tahirim. That's what they say to the dead body. The Chama Yiddish. V'zorakti aleichem, this is a promise that you won't be dead forever. You have a promise of Tchiyat HaMesim. That there'll come a time when God will resurrect you. So when they wash the dead body, Chevre Kadisha, some have a minhag, they do Pasuk Chavhei. This symbolizes that death will be banished. There will be Tchiyat HaMesim. And I'm going to show you how the ceremony of the Parah Aduma is a blow-by-blow description of Ani Mamin of Tchiyat HaMesim. So stay tuned. But before I get that, there's a worldwide explosion of anti-Semitism. It's like divine madness. The whole world is going mad with anti-Semitism. Why? Look at Pasuk Chav Daled. It's incredible. Yecheskel said this 2,500 years ago. Look at Pasuk Chav Daled. V'lakachti eschem min agoyim. I will take you from all the nations. V'kibatzti eschem mikol harotzot. And I will gather you from what? V'veiti eschem elo admatchem. Look at Mari Kara. If you look at Mari Kara, Chav Daled, Lakachti eschem min oamim, I will take you from the nations. See, I underlined it in yellow. You see, Ephraim, what it says? Bal Korcham. I will take you against your will. I will cause the Goyim to hate you and will force you to make Aliyah. So 2,500 years ago, Yecheskel prophesied this divine madness, Ephraim. It's God's game plan to what? To get the Yidden to come home. And that's what's happening, because Mashiach cannot come until world Jewry comes home. So this divine madness of anti-Semitism, it's God's plan that He told Yecheskel 2,500 years ago in Pasuk Chav Daled, I will take you from the nations Bal Korcham against your will. I'll force you to make Aliyah. And it's happening, Baruch Hashem, in Ukraine and in France.
Norway.
It's in Russia. This is happening. We are living what? This fantastic prophecy from 2,500 years ago. Now look at Pasuk Chavav. This is all a prophecy of the Messianic era. See Pasuk Chavav? V'nasati lechem leiv chadash. God said, I'm going to give you a new heart. What does that mean, Reb Zalman? A heart transplant? Huh? Leiv chadash, says Rashi. Look at Rashi Chavav, Leiv chadash. Yetzeh shenes chadesh l'tova. What does that mean? Yetzeh shenes chadesh l'tova. Huh? The Yetzeh will only be Tov. God will remove the Yetzeh hara. It'll be like you got a Leiv chadash. Because now we have what? Yetzeh hara, Yetzeh tov, Eitz hadas tov hara. But there'll come a time when Mashiach comes, God will give us a leiv chadash, yetzeh shel chadesh l'tova. And this is amazing, fits in with the parsha that we read yesterday. This is the haftorah for Parshas Parah. Yesterday we read in Bamidbar 21, B'Sefer Melchemet Hashem. There's a book called Melchemet Hashem. The Ramban says, I don't know where that book is. Even Ezra says, where's that book? The book of the wars of God. Solomon, last time I checked the library, they don't have it in stock. What is God talking about in Numbers 21? There's a book, Melchemet Hashem. We are the book. Every one of us has a Melchemet Hashem right inside us. Our personal demons that we have to struggle with. That's the Melchemet Hashem that we're fighting. Fighting a personal Yetzer Hara, whatever it is everyone has there. What's the word? Fix, or their tava, that they have to struggle with. That's Melchemet Hashem. But God tells the prophet Yecheskel that when Mashiach comes, the war will be over. We shall overcome. That's the leiv chadash, says Rashi. Yetzeh shel chadesh l'tova. No more Melchemet Hashem. The war will be over. The Yetzer Hara will be defeated. And once the Yetzer Hara is defeated, Ephraim, we won't have to fear the Balkari or Abu Mamzer. Once we defeat the internal Yetzer Hara, then we won't have to worry about the external Yetzer Hara. It will just vaporize. What a powerful prophecy over here. Leiv Chadash. Right? Not a heart transplant. Yetzer Tov. The war will be over. No more Melchemet Hashem. You won't find the book in the library. Where will you find it, Ephraim? Inside of you. That's the Melchama that each one fights with the Yetzer Hara. Individually, nationally. Right? The Balkari, Abu Mamzer, that's the symbol of the Yetzer Hara. That's the symbol of the internal struggle that all of us go through. But the war will be over, and God will give us a leiv chadash. But anyway, somehow the Parah Adumah is what? A consolation and an antidote for death. If you turn the paper over on the other side, see something amazing. How is the Parah Adumah the antidote for death? The Parah Adumah reminds us and helps us to focus on the mitzvah of Tchiyat HaMesim. You know, on the Tchiyat HaMesim, it says, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin. What's the last of the Ani Mamins, Rabbi Yaakov? Meitim Yechaye'el, Barov Chazdo, Baruch Hadeyat, Shem Tehiloto. I won't give up my day job, don't worry. The last of the Ani Mamins is to believe that God will physically resurrect the dead. That's an ikar of Yahadut. The Rambam says whoever doesn't believe that is a kofar, he's a heretic. So if it's so important to believe in the resurrection of the dead, the last time I checked the Sefer HaMitzvot, Rivka couldn't find it on the list. If Ani Mamin, by Muna Shalem Atchiyat HaMesim, the ikar of Yahadut, and it is, so how come it's nowhere to be found in the Sefer HaMitzvot? It's a belief, so it has to be what? Listed in the Sefer HaMitzvot. Where is it listed? But that's not in the mitzvah book. That's the Parish HaMitzvot. What? Who said that? Beautiful. There's amazing Shulchan Aruch and Siman Tov Reish Pei Hei that reading Parshas Parah is a mitzvah d'oraita, which is very strange. We know, Reb Zalman, that reading the Torah is a darabanan, it's a tikkun Ezra. Reading the Sefer Torah on Shabbos is what? Darabanan. Yet the Shulchan Aruch claims that reading Parshas Parah is a mitzvah min HaTorah. Even though all the other readings besides Zohar is what? Darabanan. Why is Parshas Parah min HaTorah? I think Rivka just said it. Because somehow Parshas Parah helps me focus, is a symbol of Tchiyat HaMesim. So since Tchiyat HaMesim is the ikar of Yahadut, right? So therefore, reading Parshas Porah has to be a mitzvah min Torah, because that's the mitzvah to believe in Tchiyat HaMesim. The question is, why is a dead body tameh? A dead body is called a halal. Even in modern Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, modern Hebrew, it's called halal. From the English word hallow. What's the greatest kedusha in the world? A living human being, a living Jew, the greatest kedusha. Why is a dead body the greatest tumah? The vacuum. Because when the godly soul goes away, look at footnote 7 in the Zohar. You see footnote 7 in the Zohar? When a Jew dies, all of his kedusha, his godly soul, his spirit, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechid, it all leaves. What's left is an empty shell where there's great kedusha, and now that it's gone, Reb Zalman, there's a tremendous halal. How do you say halal in Hebrew? English, hollow. Hollow. Nature abhors a vacuum. Physics 101, nature will not tolerate a vacuum. That's true in the physical world. It's certainly true in the spiritual world. Because the physical world is only a mirror, a reflection of spirit. Of what? Of the spiritual world. So therefore, if it's true that nature abhors a vacuum, it's certainly true in the Olam HaRuchni. So since a living human being is the greatest kedusha, once he's gone, there's a tremendous vacuum left behind. So therefore, what fills it? Koiches HaTumah. Halal. And therefore, a yoledes is tamei. A isha yoledet is tamei. Why is she tamei? Because Rabbeinu Bachya said, for 9 months she was carrying a godly soul. And now that it's gone, there's a halal. It's not a penalty. She did the greatest mitzvah. She's God's partner in bringing a human being into the world. So why is she tamei? Laws of nature. Physics 101. Carrying a godly soul for 9 months. Now it's gone. There's a halal. And why is she twice as tamei for a girl child? Because a girl has more kedusha. Because a girl has the life-giving capabilities in her. Right? So when she is born, the vacuum left behind is twice as deep. So the lady is twice as tamei. It's not a penalty. It's physics 101. Yes?
I'm having a problem understanding the body. Okay, it's coming. Why do they do tahara? What does tahara do to a dead body?
That's a very good question. But I answered you, Rivka. Why does the Chevre Kaddish, when they do tahara, why do they say, V'zarakti aleichem mayim tahirim? What are you telling the dead guy? That he's not going to be dead forever, Rivka. He's tamei. That's the beautiful, Rivka. It's a beautiful what you asked me. What is nothing? He's the worst type of tumah. So what are you washing him for? The reason why you're washing him is why you save this pasuk to him. V'zarakti aleichem mayim tahirim. This is a nachama to him. That he will be resurrected. God will resurrect him. Don't be too worried. You're right, the physical waters can't do anything to him. He's the worst type of tumah, but it's the idea why the Chevre Kaddish says Pasuk Chav Hey. Isn't that incredible? It's the promise. We know that until the person is put in the ground, the Talmud says he can hear everything. Until the dead body is put in the ground, he can hear everything. So we say that to him, this is a nachama. That God will sprinkle on you, meaning God will resurrect you. And my Rebbe Rapam Zatzal said something amazing. Dr. Abrams said this. One who has the emunah in Tchiyat HaMesim never dies. If you believe in Tchiyat HaMesim, you never really die. Because your neshama has that emunah. So wherever you are, you're focused. That death is only temporary. Isn't that incredible? And why you say this pasuk to the dead guy? Zarakti aleichem mayim tahirim. This is God speaking to him. It's a nachama. What?
But why don't you do tahara on somebody who died a violent death?
Oh, because there, you're not allowed to wash away the blood. Because if you do a violent death, you're washing the blood away. He has to be buried with all of his body fluids. That's halacha pi Kabbalah. He has to be buried with all his body fluids. So, Leilani, a person dies violently, You bury him the way he is. But anyway, getting back to, we said that what? That the Parah Aduma somehow reinforces my belief in what? In Tchiyat HaMesim. And I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. Parah Aduma, you have to take Mayim Chayim. If you're listening to yesterday's reading, what does Mayim Chayim mean? I never met dead water. Let's translate literally, Rabbi Yaakov. Mayim Chayim means living water. Ramban says, I never met dead water. So Ramban says that Mayim is the symbol of Chayim. The fetus is born in what? A sack of water. Mayim is a symbol of Chayim. What else do you have in the red cow? Ashes. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That's a symbol of what? Death. So Mayim Chayim, never met dead water. Living water, symbol of life, says the Ramban. Ashes, symbol of death. And you also have what? Azov. Grass. Not the type you smoke. V'lokach azov v'toval b'mayim. You take grass and you spritz the ashes and the water on the guy. Azov, says the Ramban, is a symbol of what? Of Tchiyat HaMesim. There's a pasuk in Tehillim 72:16. The dead will sprout like grass out of the earth. Says the Ramban, the Parah Aduma is a tangible symbol of Tchiyas HaMesim. Mayim is a symbol of Chayim. The ashes is a symbol of death. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But death is not final. The Azov, the grass, is a symbol of Tehillim 72:16, that when the time comes, the dead will sprout like grass from the earth. So it's the Ramban. He says, you see that somehow the Parah Aduma is a symbol to help us focus on our belief on Tchiyat HaMesim, which is an Ikra Yahadut. You're not finished yet. What else does the Parah Aduma include? Shnei Toilat. A Reuter Bendel. You know what the Reuter Bendel comes from? You ever see the Reuter Bendel? The red band. A string of wool dyed with the blood of a tolat. Sounds like voodoo. No, it's not voodoo. What's a tolat? A caterpillar, Shirley. Oh, what's a caterpillar got to do with it? King David calls himself in Tehillim 22, V'anochi tolat. I am a caterpillar. And God tells the prophet Isaiah chapter 41, Al tiri toilat Yaakov. Don't be afraid, you caterpillar Yaakov. Mitei Yisrael, you that are dead in Israel. Ani azartich num Hashem. Isaiah 41. God calls us a caterpillar, not the Russian bear, not the American eagle. Why a caterpillar? Because it's beautiful. Because the secret of Tchiyat HaMesim is contained in the caterpillar. The caterpillar crawls into a cocoon. What's a cocoon? A grave. What happens to the caterpillar? He decomposes, and out comes a butterfly. That's a symbol of Tchiyat HaMesim. After 120, all of us are put into a cocoon. What's a cocoon, Shirley? Grave. And we decompose, but when the time comes, we will rise out of the grave like a butterfly out of its grave. Isn't that incredible? Why the Parah Aduma includes a caterpillar blood. Isn't that incredible? Because the secret of life and death and Tchiyat HaMesim are all played out in what? In the Parah Aduma ceremony. So even though you can't do it today, just by reading it, Ephraim, you reaffirm your belief and you focus on Tchiyat HaMesim, which is the Ikra Yahadut. So therefore, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, by reading Parshas Parah, it's a mitzvah min HaTorah. Which mitzvah min HaTorah, Ephraim? Tchiyat HaMesim. Isn't that incredible? Unbelievable. So yesterday we did a twofer. We read Parshas Parah, but we also did the mitzvah of what? Of Ani Mamin, Meitim Yechayael Barov Chazdo Baruch Hadayat Shem Tihuloso. Now, isn't that amazing? And, says the Ramban, therefore there's halacha in the Yordeya, Shin Ayin Vav, when a person leaves the cemetery, there are three things you're supposed to do, says the Ramban. It's a Shulchan Aruch, codified, based on the Ramban, because Shulchan Aruch came later. You're supposed to take a handful of dirt. You're supposed to pluck some grass. And you're supposed to wash your hands. So you take a handful of dirt, and you put it on the grave, ashes to ashes, dirt to dirt, right? You take some grass. Grass reminds us of Tehillim 72, that the dead will what? Sprout like grass. And you wash your hands, mayim chayim. So the minhag, what you do when you leave a cemetery, you are playing out the Parah Adumah ritual. There's something else that you put on the grave. You put a rock. Why is there a custom to put a rock? God calls himself the rock. In Devarim 32, God says, Hatzur Tamim Pa'alo. I am a rock, solid as a rock. God calls himself the rock. Devarim 32, Rabbi Yaakov told me. So you know why you put a stone on the grave? It's a great nechama. My beloved is not 6 feet under. That's just his bodysuit. He's with the rock. He's with the rock. That reinforces my belief that there is an afterlife and there will be Tchiyat HaMesim. So therefore we continue to read Pashas Parah. It gives us chizuk and emunah that there'll be resurrection of the dead. And my Rebbe Rapam said, if you believe in the resurrection of the dead, you never really die. There's an amazing Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin. If someone doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead, he will not be resurrected. Is that a punishment? No. You create your own reality. You gotta believe, Rabbi Yaakov. Who said that? If you believe in the resurrection of the dead, you create a reality. You never really die. You have that promise. But if you don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, then how could you be resurrected? It's not God's fault. That's the awesome power of a human being, to live beyond the grave. If you want it, you got to believe it. You create your own reality. You believe in Tchiyat HaMesim, you never really die. You don't believe in it, then God says, what do you want from me? I gave you the power to create, positive or negative. Unbelievable. So anyway, the Parah Adumah, the great mystery of why tshuva works, we just don't know. Right, Bezalman? It's beyond human comprehension. We don't know. We just don't know. In the Middle Ages, you know, we use the chapter numbers in the Bible. The Barbanel says the chapter numbers in Tanakh are not Jewish. Numbers 24, Exodus 34, they're not Jewish. Why do we use them, Rav Zalman? Because the Barbanel tells us that we always were challenged by debates. In the Middle Ages, the priests were experts in the Tanakh. They always liked to get, catch us with our pants down. And many Jews didn't know Hebrew. They only spoke Yiddish or Ladino. And they were expert, so they would challenge us for debate, so we had to be on the same page. So therefore, the Barbanel says, as Akdama Tetnach, we adopted the what? The chapter numbers from what? From the Goyim. Right? Ein Breira. So they used to challenge us to debates, and if we would lose a debate, not good. So one day, this bishop came to this town in Poland, right? And he told the rabbi, you have to send me a debating partner to debate the Hebrew language in the Bible. If you don't put up a partner, there'll be a pogrom. You'll all be destroyed and wiped out. If you win the debate, right, you'll be fine. Whoever loses the debate, he will be beheaded on the spot, and you can survive. If you don't debate me, a pogrom. He came from the Vatican, this bishop, with 2 Swiss guards, 2 bulvans. They came with a sword. And the rules of the debate were, in the town square, whoever didn't know an answer to a Hebrew question, the Hebrew language, would be beheaded on the spot, like the ISIS today. ISIL, what are they called? ISIS. They make you a head shorter. So the rabbi was terrified. Who's going to debate? They hardly knew. They didn't know Hebrew that well. They knew Yiddish and Polish, whatever. But if they didn't put up a contestant, they'd be all destroyed. Pogrom. So no one wanted to volunteer to debate this bishop. Mendel the Schumacher. No, Mendel the Schumacher says, I'll debate him. So the rabbi said, Mendel, you barely learned of, in Cheder. What are you going to debate him? He said, listen, you ain't got no braver. No one else wants to go. If we don't put up somebody, there'll be a pogrom. The town will be destroyed. So Mendel the Schumacher goes to debate this bishop, He just went out of Cheder. He just learned the Cheder. Then he had to learn a trade. So the bishop looks at him. He's wearing his apron from the Schumacher, right? He starts to mock him. He says, you go first, you dirty Jew. Ask me a question in Hebrew. Remember, whoever doesn't know, the Swiss guards beheaded on the spot. No chachma. So the bishop says, you dirty Jew, ask me a question. So Mendel, the Schumacher, says, oh, mighty bishop, what does ani lo yodea mean? So the bishop says, I don't know. Boom. The Bulvan from the Vatican, the Swiss guards, he doesn't understand no chachma. The rules of the game was, whoever says I don't know is beheaded on the spot. So Mendel asked the bishop, what does ani lo yodea mean? Bishop said, I don't know. Boom. Not the end of the story. So they picked Mendel up, they put him on the shoulders, and they bring him to the rabbi. They said, Mendel, you're a genius, Mendel. You're a genius, you're an ignoramus, Mendel. You came in Cheder, you learned 1 year in Cheder. How did you know to stump this bishop? He says, Rebbe, I'll tell you. When I was in Cheder, I asked my Rebbe, what does ani lo yodea mean? My Rebbe says, I don't know. If my Rebbe doesn't know, this guy is going to know. Don't you get it? Mendel's Rebbe didn't know. Ani lo yodea. My Rebbe doesn't know. Der guy it wissen. True story. Anyway. Ani lo yodea. Get it? All right. A Yiddish cup, right? A Yiddish cup. Anyway, why is death tameh? Oh, I gave one explanation. Nature will not tolerate a vacuum, right? Halal, the English word hollow, halal in Hebrew is a dead body. But there's another explanation why death is tameh. There's a pasuk in Tilim, Oilam Chesed Yiboneh. The world was built, Reb Zalman, that one human being should do chesed for the other guy. The whole purpose of being alive is not to eat steak or pizza or to watch the Mondello. What's it called? Mondiolo? Mondial, no. The purpose of being alive, says King David, is Olam Chesed Yibaneh. That people should do chesed one for the other. Can a dead body do chesed? That's tameh. If you can't do chesed, you're tameh. Pretty interesting. Now, if you take a look at the sheet where it says death and consolation, see death and consolation? You have that. Paraduma, number 3. You see number 3? The Rambam, Hilchas Mikvosh, right? The Rambam says, I'll translate it, it'll go faster. Don't think that tumah is something physical. It's not dirt, right? Before you go to the mikvah, Frayim, what? You wash yourself. So you're clean already. So how does the mikvah remove the tumah? So the Rambam says over here that it's a chok. She'ena tumah tit oitzaya. Tumah is not what? Dudu. It's not mud. It's gzeres hakosavu. V'adova tole kvanas halev. You see the underline there? It matters kavanat halev. Have underlined. You see? Lefikach amu chachamim. Taval v'loy huchzik u'loy taval. If a person goes to the mikveh and he thinks he's in a Jack LaLanne jacuzzi. Remember Jack LaLanne? He died at 99. He used to pull tugboats in the East River. He was 90 years old. He used to swim with tugboats. I'm not joking. He pulled a tugboat with him. Never heard of Jack LaLanne? Anyway, if you go to a mikveh, you think you're in jacuzzi when you come out. Says Rambam, you're just as tamei as you went in. But why? I'm dripping wet. Kavanah. Tama is not a physical entity. It's not schmutz. So if you go to the mikveh, you don't have kavanah. You're just as tamei as when you what? Went in. Nothing physical changed, says Rambam. See footnote 3 there. Loinus chadish begufay davar. It's kavanah shalef. That's a symbol, says the Rambam. That what? The human being is not his body, it's his neshama, his mind. Right? Mind over matter. Right? So therefore, even though you're physically in the mikvah, if you think you're in a jacuzzi, you're just as tamei. Okay. I think we have some questions about the idea of paraduma. Now know the Chama why it's red. Right? The symbol of what? Of death, of life, blood. Person sins, he forfeits his...
Rab,
yes?
Did Moshe Rabbeinu understand the chok?
Did Moshe understand the chok? If Shlomo Melech could, the smartest human being, it says Koheles 7...
No, we're talking afterward.
What?
We're talking after.
The chok is tshuva, that's the chok.
Moshe went up to Koheles.
No, I mean after he died.
He spoke with God.
Right? How tshuva works, that's the chok. Or death is the chok.
But Moshe also
Right?
brought tshuva to us. He brought tshuva to us.
We know that it works, but we don't know why it works. How could a person reinvent himself? A guy ate a cheeseburger 46 years ago. So you do tshuva today, Shirley. So that cheeseburger you ate 46 years ago is a mitzvah. Does that make sense? Makes no sense to us. That's the mystery, the paraduma. It's beyond human comprehension. Right?
What about someone who murders someone who wounds someone's life?
You're right. So, Shirley, you're cooking with gas, Shirley. Ooh, you're beautiful. The Mishnah says in the Masechta Yuma, sins bein Adam la Makoim, Yom Kippur helps. Eating a cheeseburger, being Mechal Shabbos, that tshuva you can turn on a very into mitzvah. But bein Adam lechaveroi, Shirley, ein Yom Kippur mechaper, oy oy oy. It's a Mishnah. Thank you for bringing it up, Shirley. Thank you. Bein Adam lechavero, says the Mishnah in Yuma, ein Yom Kippur mechaper. At shetaratzat chavero. But if he's dead, how do you appease him? If you stole from him, you can pay him back. Right? If you hurt him, you can pay him back. Financially, emotionally, physically, damages. But if he's dead, you can't pay him back. So Nebuch, there's no tshuva for murder. Mishnah Masechta Yuma, thank you, Shirley. That bein Adam lechaveroi, the sin is much more severe than bein Adam. Well, I'm talking about bein Adam la Makoim, not eating kosher, a frying being mechal Shabbat, wearing shatnez. That tshuva can turn that aveira into a mitzvah. But bein Adam lechavero, no way, Jose. Unless, Rabbi Aaron, you do right by the guy that you wronged. But if he's dead, you can't do right by him. I mean, what? You support the widow and the orphans. That's something also, right? Very good point. Yes? Yes? What?
The execution is mechaper.
What?
If they execute the murderer, that's...
If they execute the murderer, that's mechaper ben Adam lamakoim. But how does it mechaper ben Adam chavero? You see? When you kill someone, you did a double affair. You sinned against the person that you killed, but you sinned against his creator. So the execution of the murderer atones ben Adam lamakoim. But that doesn't set right ben Adam lechavero. So every sin against a fellow human being, Rabbi Yaakov, is a twofer. When you sin against a fellow human being, you also sin against what? Hashem. Because he has a tzelem Elohim. You sin against it. That's why sinning against a fellow human being is twice as bad. Right? You sin against God, you sin against one. You sin against a human being, you sin against the human being and his creator. It's twice as severe. Michael, it's a twofer. And the same thing, when you do a mitzvah in Odom HaMakom, the other side of the coin, you put on tefillin, right? You please Hashem, one mitzvah. When you do a chesed for a fellow human being, it's a twofer. You're pleasing the human being, and you're pleasing his creator. Ben Odom L'Chaveiro is twice as good, and also the negative side is twice as what? Twice as bad. Wow.
Well, is it
Yes?
the concept of when someone kills somebody shogeg, and
You go to Ori Miklat. You didn't mean it there. Okay, so you...
but on the way, the person's relative can kill him on the way.
No, so you learn Masechta Sanhedrin that he gets a marshal's, remember Marshal Dillon, he gets an armed escort into the Ori Miklat. Once he's in the Ori Miklat on the armed guard, and if he wanders out, then the relative can kill him. But on his way to the Ori Miklat, he has a police escort.
So
If he wanders out, then the relatives have a right to kill him. As long as he's in the Ori Miklat, he has protection.
what's the logic?
It's a chok. It's a chok. Yes, Reb Zalman.
Suicide, something to...
Suicide is murder. You look in Parshas Noach. The pasuk in Parshas Noach that God tells Noach that suicide is murder. You killed yourself. And God says someone that kills himself, I will what? Seek revenge against him. So that's the clearest proof that there's life after death, Ephraim. God tells Noach, remind me to show you tomorrow. God tells Noach, if someone kills himself, I will settle up the score with him. But if he's dead already, how can God settle the score? That's the earliest proof in the Chumash that there's what? Life after death. Otherwise, Nechama, how can God settle the score with a suicide victim? So it proves, first place in the Chumash, Noach, remind me to show it to you next week, where God says, I'll settle up with him, he's dead. That's a proof that what? There's life after death.
Where is it, Noah?
Parshas Noach. You bring me a Chumash, I'll show it to you. Okay? In Parshas Noach. Thank you very much.